Welcome to another episode of Divorcee Cafe on Videozine. Today I have Natalee Fox here from the Travel Concierge to talk to us. And she's a good friend of mine and helped me plan a few trips and has been super fun to work with. But I wanted her here today because she just has lots of experience with going through divorces and being a single mom, entrepreneur, and blending families and all sorts of stuff and some tips. So we're going to do a few episodes coming up over the couple of weeks talking to her, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
So tell me about you.
Well, as far as my business is concerned, I've been in the travel industry for 23 years now. I started right out of high school as a summer job working for Intercontinental Hotels Group, which is the Holiday Inn family. And at the time I was going to college and wanted to be an attorney and started working just as a reservation agent and actually fell in love with the company and with the thought of travel. And I think that's really where it started to kind of get in my blood, was I wanted to start seeing the world. And so worked for them for about 20 years. And then just kind of things in my life were, honestly, they just fell apart. Anything that could possibly go wrong happened. The company I was working for, the position I had was no longer available. And so I was let go after 19 years and I didn't know what I was going to do. I had 2 kids from a previous marriage and 1 from my current marriage. And I had planned on being with this company, the rest of my life. So I was like, what do I do with my life now? And within 6 weeks of being laid off, my second husband left. And
oh my God.
So that
was a double whammy.
It was a double whammy. And then literally within 2 months of that happening, I was hit by a car.
Oh God.
So I call it the perfect trifecta, but I don't know how positive of an event it was. But honestly, it changed my life. All the pain, at the time when you're going through such devastating instances like that, you don't know what's the big picture, what's the cause here, what are we doing, and how are we going to make this work. But literally, I found myself without my husband, who I love dearly, with 3 kids all on my own and no job.
Oh, God.
And I was injured. So I had to really dig down deep and redefine who I was. And I would say the number one thing that kept me going was trying to take care of my kids. I didn't want them to see me as a failure. I wanted them to know that I was always there for them, and no matter what, we were going to get through all of this.
How do you get through? I mean, how do you, what do you address first? You got hit by a car, so you were injured.
Yeah.
And you are going through divorce.
Yeah. And
you got laid off. Mm-hmm. So how do you identify which priority to deal with? Because they're all big priorities.
They're big priorities. My 2 oldest kids I had with my first husband, and I think that divorce and our relationship is a very bad one, and it was an extremely painful process and has remained very difficult for 20 plus years now. So I know going into my second marriage, I knew all the things that I didn't want to do. I was very fortunate through this divorce process that our number one priority was this blended family that we had. He had 2 kids from a previous marriage, and then I had my 2 kids, and then we had our son together.
Wow, you're kind of like the Brady Bunch.
We were the Brady Bunch, and I'm glad to say to this day we are very good friends, and our relationship just wasn't big. Looking back now, it just wasn't going to work long term. But we've always loved our kids, and that was always been our number one focus. And I think from both of us coming from such a difficult background with our previous spouses, it really helped us know what we were not going to do
The second time
around. And I mean, that concept in itself is kind of devastating to say, yeah, I've been through 2 divorces and you know, I went through a lot of emotions with that, like, what, I can't make a marriage work, you know, am I unlovable? I you know, you go through the gamut of so many different things, but what I know is that the kids were our number one priority.
That's so important to put the kids before the problems. It
absolutely is, because again, with my first husband, it's not worked out that way, and the kids have always been in the middle of whatever issues he and I have had, and it's been devastating. It's been devastating on multiple levels, and that's a regret I will always, you know, I have to learn to accept and forgive myself for my part in that. And but again, getting back to, you know, where I was 4 years ago, I knew 2 things. If I was ever going to get married again, it was going to be forever. So I already knew how I wanted to be in relationships, and I wanted my kids to know that it was possible to have a good relationship and love. So that was really important to me. I wanted my kids to know that even in the worst of times, love and kindness will get us through, and we can remain strong, and that as long as we're together, that's all that matters. And 3, I had to find a way to financially take care of myself. And the pain of, you know, being let go from this family. They were my best friends. They were my family. And to all of a sudden not have that in my life was very, very devastating. And kind of the stubborn side of me and bullheaded part of me said, well, I'm never going to let that happen again. I'm not going to work for a company that may possibly have the potential of laying me off again. And so that's when I decided I was going to start my own business and figure out how I can become my own boss and keep my kids fed and taken care of. And fortunately, I was in an industry that I was extremely passionate about and was so fortunate to see the world, and I wanted that to keep happening. So that's why I decided to continue on and build my own agency. And that's where we have kind of gotten today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk more about the agency in our next segment.
Okay.
Right now, I would really like to know, what was the difference with handling the kids between your first divorce and your second divorce? You know, did your kids from the previous marriage identify with your second husband more as a dad?
Absolutely. In fact, they still call him dad. They've remained close. I'm very close with his 2 kids because we had them during their adolescence. I mean, we helped raise one another's children, and so we played a very big role and still continue to do so. So that part, again, was so critical to us because we didn't want them to feel unloved because we weren't able to work out our issues. And I can't stress enough how important it is to, no matter what, put the kids first. You have to. And we had to make it work. And as we came together as a family, again, because we had gone through just literally hell. We'd both been through hell. And throughout our whole marriage, I think that was a big issue, is we never had a solid footing anywhere because we were always being pulled different ways, from my ex-husband to his ex-wife, and it never worked. No matter what we tried to do, there was always something pulling us a different way. And so we knew that number one is we were not going to create that environment again. And I can say without a doubt that our son, he's healthy and he's thriving because he doesn't ever feel like he has to choose. And my 2 children, I know, and my ex-husband's, his 2 kids, were always placed in a position, you can't love both parents. You have to choose one or the other. And it is so devastating.
It so hard.
It is. It's so devastating. And the impact that it has on the kids is heartbreaking.
Well, it is. I mean, I'm dealing with that with Mina. She came home a week ago and she just was so sad and she didn't want to go to her dad's house. And I said, why? She's like, I just can't be me, Mommy. I just feel they won't love me for being me. And she said, and they also say mean things about you. And I said, well, what did they say? She's like, oh, I don't want to tell you to hurt your feelings. I said, I'm good. Like, if you need to get it off, your chest, then you let me know. And she's like, they're just telling me you're a mean mommy and that I shouldn't love you anymore. And she's like, and that makes me really, really sad. And I'm, it just is incredulous to me, because she doesn't know what to do. She's 9.
They're so young, and they're so
young.
They're so young, and they want to love both parents. So currently, my oldest son, I have no contact with him right now because he feels that he cannot be with both parents. And I understand as an adolescent and a teenager, he so desperately wants his father's love. But it's been made very apparent that if you're going to be a part of my life, you don't get to be a part of hers. And it's been devastating. He lived with me for the last 15 months and had no contact really with his dad. And it was heartbreaking for him. And I was just trying to love him unconditionally, no matter what. And we had really difficult days. But at the end, I wanted him to know, no matter what, he always has a place in my home. And he will always have a place in my heart, and he will always be welcome. But ultimately, he sat in my living room and he said to me, I can't be with you, and I need to be with my dad. And I said, then you need to go. But you get to always come home. You'll always be welcome here. But it's just not a relationship that has allowed that kind of platform or any kind of situation. My daughter, so his sister, has had 0 contact with her dad for 3 years now.
Wow.
And, she looks to, her stepdad, my ex-husband, as a dad. And then now my current husband has really stepped it up with her. And it's just, it's sad to me.
It's very sad.
It's sad that so much pride and whatever hard and horrible feelings he has towards me cannot be separated and allow him to be with his kids and allow him to have a relationship with her. And it's not just saying horrible things about me. He says horrible things about her, and he doesn't even know her. And she's a beautiful, beautiful person. She just graduated from high school. She works full-time with severely handicapped individuals and adults, and she loves it. I mean, you have to have a special personality to do that.
Yeah.
And I see and watch her thrive in this business.
It's his loss.
It is his loss, and that makes me sad.
It's very, very sad because, I watch the relationship ebb and flow between Mina and her father, and I go, I can see when he tries, and I see where she shuts him down. I'm going, oh, but he's trying here. He's texting you and checking on you and the new puppy. Maybe you should just text him back and say it's all good, you know. But there's just definitely this ebb and flow, and it's just so sad because it doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah, I think one of the most sad moments I had with my son is he was crying, he was just bawling, and he's like, you don't know what it's like, Mom, to have 3 dads. And my heart just broke for him, and I looked at him and I had to accept his pain. I have to allow him to have those emotions and pain. And I looked at him and I said, you're right. I'll never know what it's like to have 3 dads because my parents are still together. I grew up in a loving home. I grew up with 5 siblings and 2 loving parents, and we're still very close today. And I wasn't able to give my children that. And so I have to, one, release the guilt that I have from that, because that doesn't do me any good. And it's not helping them heal if I'm carrying that level of guilt. But I have to allow them to have their emotions and their pain. And all I could do is sit and say, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, I had to do that just
I
last
will
week
never,
with Mina.
I will never know, son, what it's like to have 3 dads. And for that, I am sorry, but
It breaks
you're
your
loved.
heart.
It
But,
does. It was heartbreaking.
It's like a catch-22. You know, Mina, again, a week or so ago, she's crying. She's like, I just want a simple life, Mommy. Mm-hmm. I just want it to be simple.
Yes.
Why do I have to go between two houses?
Yes.
Why do I have to do that? Can't I have a simple life? I wish that I had parents who wanted to stay together. I didn't choose this, Mommy. I said, I know you didn't choose this.
Yeah.
She's like, I know it's not good for you and my dad to be together, but it's hard. I don't like it. And I said, I know.
And spot on, because that's exactly what my son said to me for a couple of years now. He's like, I'm tired of going back and forth. I'm tired of having two homes and living two different ways, and my heart has just been breaking for him. My heart's been breaking for me because I desperately miss him. You don't get to ever stop being a mom.
Right.
You know, you don't get to shut that off.
Right.
And to be talked about as if I'm some horrible person because we may have different religious beliefs or views about God in general or whatever, that is not a reason to not be his parent.
Right.
And I can't change, and I don't judge him or his father for the way he believes, but I don't receive that the same. And it's so deep and so embedded in the way they think that, again, my son feels like he cannot have both parents, and he desperately, he wanted it to be simple.
Yeah.
That was a perfect word. He wanted it to just be simple, and he needed and wants his dad's love. And I think in his heart, at least, I don't know if this is just me trying to make me feel better, but I believe that he knows I love him no matter what.
And I think that's the most important
no matter
part.
what. And I think he feels like I can let her go because I know no matter what, my mom's going to love me. Mm-hmm. And maybe right now they don't get to be in my life, and maybe right now she won't be in my life, but I had to let him, kind of make that choice, mm-hmm. and not put him in another position of saying, no, that's not going to work. And again, and then you get a whole ripple effect because he still has his little brother at home.
Yeah.
Who loves and misses him.
Of course.
It's just
super hard.
It's an unfortunate, horrific ripple effect, but there are ways of making it work. And
if you could give us just a couple of ways that helped you make it work, and we will hopefully help some people out there, and then we'll close out our session for today.
Number one thing is never ever talk badly about the other spouse. You have to provide an environment where your child feels safe, mm-hmm. to love that other parent. No matter what your feelings are. You can be behind doors and bang your head against the wall, but I've never spoken illy of my second husband, and Jackson knows that we are friends. He knows that we still love one another. We just couldn't make it work. We just couldn't be together.
Right.
And he's never said, we've never created an environment where he says, I need it simplified, Mom.
Right.
And so, one, please don't ever talk badly about that other person. Your child needs to have the freedom to love them. Mm-hmm. And then second is be flexible. Everybody's Christmas, everybody's special holidays, everybody's birthday, everything is going to mean something to everyone involved. And the court systems are made to have guidelines and be kind of a tiebreaker when the two parents can't figure it out. But ultimately,
be an adult.
Treat one another with respect, mm-hmm. and just make it work for the kids. Make it work. We have a pretty flexible schedule in our divorce decree, but I tell you, we do whatever's best for my mm-hmm. son. And if something comes up and he needs to be with him on Christmas morning, and it's technically my year, we make it work. We make it work for everybody. Because
it's about the kids.
It is. It's about the kids. You don't have a lot of time. It's been really eye-opening to me, where my two oldest kids are now graduating high school, 18, 17. They're going to start their own lives.
Yeah.
And their time with me is gone. and you don't have a lot of time with these kids and their life and the way they're being raised and the way they view relationships is dependent on how the two of you can make a divorce work.
Right.
So no matter what, make it about the kids. No matter.
So
any
important.
situation. So
Okay, one last tip.
one last tip. Take a breather. If you guys are having a moment and you're going to be getting into it, agree to talk about it later, and just say, you know what, let's table this and let's walk away, because I know 24 hours later everything looks entirely different to me. And don't remove your ego from it.
I think that's hard for some people.
It is. It's very difficult. I'm not saying it's easier for me. But in the end, keeping the peace and being able to respect one another is key. So if you're in a moment and it's not going to go anywhere, take a breath and take a breather and say, let's talk about this later.
So perfect. So let's take a breath and take a breather.
All right, sounds good.
We will be right back for our next segment.
Okay, great.
Stay tuned. We'll see you in a minute.